I came home earlier than planned on Christmas night, fully intending to pull off a grand surprise for my husband's whole family. My flight landed early. The highway was completely empty, with only freshly fallen snow sparkling under the headlights like thousands of diamonds someone had accidentally shattered across the road. I smiled to myself in the rental car, arms hugging a pile of carefully wrapped gifts from Dubai, a pearl necklace for my mother-in-law, an 18-year-old whiskey for my father-in-law, and especially a brown Hermes belt for my husband. My in-laws' house was already lit up from far away, the sound of White Christmas by Bing Crosby spilling out warmly. I gently pushed open the front door. They never locked it when there was a party. Stepped into the hallway with a wide grin and a heart pounding hard from excitement. The smell of cinnamon and fresh pine rushed into my nose. The Christmas tree, nearly 5 meters tall, was drowned in white lights and thousands of shimmering ornaments. I was only 3 meters from the kitchen door, close enough to clearly hear every single breath. Then Graham's voice rang out, deep, warm, strangely happy. "Mom! She's pregnant already. Nina is carrying my child. We're about to become a real family." The world didn't collapse. It simply stopped spinning. I stood there, in my in-laws' hallway, holding the Christmas gifts, wearing the red cashmere sweater that Graham himself had picked for me last year, with a goofy reindeer stitched on the chest. The pile of gifts in my arms suddenly felt as heavy as lead. The square Hermes box pressed into my ring finger, where the 8-year wedding ring still sat quietly in place, now looking ridiculous. My mother-in-law was silent for a few seconds, then her voice trembled. "Oh my God, Graham! What about Linda?" Graham laughed. That relieved kind of laugh from someone who had just put down a heavy burden. "I'll tell Linda after the baby is born. I don't want to ruin everything. Nina's already in her 4th month, Mom. It's a boy." I didn't scream. I didn't drop the gifts on the floor. I just quietly turned around, as gently as when I came in, and closed the door without a sound. Snow was still falling outside, beautiful in a cruel way. I got into the car, started the engine, turned on the heater, and drove back to the house that the two of us once called our home. On the way back, memories rushed in like a slow, malicious rewind. We met at a real estate conference in Dallas. I was there with my boss, taking notes on contracts and presenting data. He was on stage, talking about the future of the housing market like it was a Hollywood blockbuster. We bumped into each other at the coffee counter during the break. He cracked a joke, I laughed, and everything started that simply. 2 years later, we got married in a small wedding in Austin. Nothing too grand, just family, a few close friends, a few glasses of wine, and one clumsy dance under yellow string lights. My parents liked him. His parents adored me. Back then, everyone thought we were a match made in heaven. We bought a house in a neighborhood that the realtor called the perfect place to raise children. Clean streets, green trees, good schools, neighbors constantly dropping off baked goods, and a homeowners association that met so often I wondered if they had real lives at all. Graham's career took off quickly. He sold more houses, met more people. His phone was always ringing. Clients booking showings, networking invitations. My career was doing fine too. Good salary, packed schedule, meetings, deadlines. From the outside, we became the kind of couple neighbors whispered about as a power couple. Nice cars in the driveway, polished outfits, smiling side by side in group photos every holiday. On Thanksgiving, we stood in the kitchen talking about interest rates, house prices, market futures like it was small talk about the weather. Looking at us, life looked like a dream. It was just that, like every dream that lasts too long, it slowly turned into habit. Habit turned into boredom. And boredom turned into that Christmas night. If I look back closely, I should have seen it coming. All the signs were already there, so obvious that now, thinking back, I just want to slap myself. Graham started coming home late more often about 8 months ago. Difficult clients, urgent contracts, appointments that couldn't be moved. He changed his cologne, said the old one was discontinued, but the new scent felt younger, sharper, like the smell I'd catch on girls walking past my office. Then suddenly, he got serious about going to the gym. Came home tired, showered, slept. Weekends were busy with clients. And me? I buried myself in work, in emails, in projects, in the comfort of believing I knew what cheating men looked like, and that my husband could never be one of them. I was too busy to connect all the small clues together, too busy to realize that the things I used to advise other people about, I never applied to myself. I was confident that my marriage was immune to betrayal, and of course, I was completely wrong. The car stopped in front of our garage. The house that now felt empty and cold, even though the heating system was still running at 26 degrees. I stayed in the car another 10 minutes, staring at the automatically lit house, staring at the tree Graham and I had decorated together last week before I flew to Dubai, staring at the cotton Santa hanging by the door. A Santa that now looked like a clown laughing at me. I didn't cry. I just smiled. The kind of smile people have when they realize they've just been played in a card game so beautifully it was almost perfect. And Graham, my love, you just handed me all the best cards on the table with your own hands. This Christmas is going to be very interesting, I promise. I called Daniel, my best friend. And also a lawyer. He picked up on the second ring. On the other end of the line, there was laughter, Christmas music, the sound of glasses clinking. Linda, you're back early? I thought you said you wouldn't be back until tomorrow? I swallowed. I need a lawyer, I said. A divorce lawyer. The best one you know. All the noise on the other end sounded like someone flipped a switch. I heard a door close. What happened? I told him everything. From coming home early, the hallway, the kitchen door, Graham's words, the name Nina, the pregnant belly, 6 months, the plan, the way he intended to tell me after the baby was born. Daniel was quiet for a long time. Then he asked, "Where are you right now?" "I'm home." "Don't stay there," he said immediately. "Pack your things and go to a hotel right now, Linda." "I'm serious." "Why?" "Because you need a clear head, and you can't be clear in the house where you lived with him." He kept talking, not giving me time to react. "Because you shouldn't be there when he comes home and starts asking questions, because you need space to process all of this before you do anything stupid." He paused a little. "And because you need to collect evidence before he knows that you know." "Evidence?" "Texts, emails, call logs, bank statements, everything. If this has been going on for 6 months, there will be traces. You have to find them before he gets a chance to erase them." I understood immediately. Data, patterns, pieces that could be rearranged into a complete picture. "I'll send you some names," Daniel said. "Lawyers who specialize in things like this. But listen to me, Linda. Don't confront him. Don't tell him that you know. Not until you've talked to a lawyer and protected yourself." "Protected from what?" "Financially, legally, mentally. He's been planning this for months. You just found out tonight. He's 6 months ahead of you. You need to catch up before he makes his next move." I knew he was right. I really did. But inside me, there was still a part that wanted to drive back to my in-laws' house, walk straight into the kitchen, and look at Graham's face when he saw me. I wanted to see him panic, wanted to see him stutter, but I didn't do it. Because Daniel was right, and because underneath the shock and the pain, something else had started to move. Cold, precise, methodical, Graham had planned this. He had calculated when to tell me. How to tell me. He had probably already talked with Nina about what the divorce would look like, how the assets would be divided, what story they'd tell the world. He had turned my marriage into a project that he was managing. Ironically, I am very good at managing projects. He just never knew that. I packed a bag, a few clothes, toiletries, laptop, the external hard drive where I keep backups of everything important. I moved through my own house like a shadow, looking at everything with completely different eyes. The photos on the walls, lies. The sofa set we chose together, props in a play I didn't know was heading toward its final act. The bed. The place where he had pretended intimacy while secretly planning to leave me. July. The last time we slept together. I thought it was when we reconnected. Turns out he may have been comparing, making sure he had chosen the right person before deciding. I opened the cabinet where we kept important documents: marriage certificate, house documents, tax files, insurance. I took photos of everything with my phone, uploaded them to a new cloud account he didn't know the password to. Then I sat down at the computer in the shared home office, the machine we both used to pay bills, shop, store photos. He had his own laptop. I had mine. But this one had always been considered neutral. We knew each other's passwords. Why hide? We were married after all. I logged into Graham's email. My job had taught me how to handle data, how to filter information, find patterns, connect scattered pieces into a full picture. And I started connecting. That relationship started in August, exactly like what I had overheard. I found a hotel invoice, a luxury room booked on the exact night he said he was out of town on business. I remembered that night very clearly. I was home alone, eating bread and watching a travel show. I thought he was in another city. No, he was in a hotel with her. I kept searching, corporate expense reports, the client entertainment category, but the numbers didn't match. Too expensive, too private. 2 main courses, 1 dessert to share, bottles of wine that cost more than our entire weekly grocery bill. I saw his calendar. Strange gaps, repeated emergency meetings. Everything started lining up into a clean timeline, like a tightly managed project. But that project was betrayal. I stood up and opened his closet. Everything was still neat, like always. Suits arranged by color, because yes, my husband is that kind of person. But then I saw it. A small gift bag shoved deep behind the winter coats. I pulled it out. Inside was a receipt from Tiffany, dated 2 weeks ago. Amount, $3,200. My hand instinctively touched the engagement ring on my finger. The ring I received 10 years ago. Price $1,800. Clearly, inflation doesn't just affect everything, it also affects his romance. And just like Daniel said, when you find one thing, there are always more. I found a second phone, hidden inside his gym bag. I turned it on. No password. Basic mistake. A message thread saved under just the name L. Going back for months. Future plans. Talking about baby names. Imagining the house they wanted to live in together. But the final blow wasn't those loving words. It was a message sent 3 days ago. Just a few more months, and everything will be over, and we can officially be a real family. I promise, baby. I stood there, holding the phone, feeling the blood in my body turn cold. He had planned it all, waiting until she gave birth, then telling me, as if that was some kind of kindness. I took screenshots, sent everything to the cloud, organized them into a clear timeline. 6 months, 6 months of betrayal, 6 months of lies, 6 months where he thought I had no idea. Almost midnight before I was done. I had been sitting in front of the computer, walking around the house, watching my marriage fall apart into a messy timeline of hotel invoices, card statements, calendars, and deleted messages. My phone kept vibrating the entire time. I muted it. When I finally looked, I saw everything. 19 missed calls from Graham, 27 messages. Just those messages alone were enough to tell a whole story. Where are you? I'm at my parents' house, and you're not here. Linda, my parents said you came back this afternoon. You're starting to make me worried. This isn't funny. Where are you? If you don't answer, I'll call the police. Please text me back so I know you're safe. I almost laughed when I read the last line. Let him know I was safe, as if the one in danger here was me, as if I was the one who needed protection. I sent back a short reply. Flight got delayed. I'll be back tomorrow. Don't wait up. Almost immediately, a reply came back. Thank God, I was worried to death. I was afraid something happened to you. Love you so much. Can't wait until tomorrow. Love you so much. Can't wait until tomorrow? Empty words. Lines that just hours earlier, he had probably typed the exact same way to Nina. Maybe while laughing in his parents' kitchen, between plates of Christmas cookies, between conversations about the new family future he had just told his mother about, like a project he had already completed in his head a long time ago. That night at the hotel, I didn't sleep. I started building a file. Daniel had introduced me to people who could help. I knew calling this late was too late, but I couldn't wait any longer. The first call was to Robert, a private investigator, the best of the best. "This is Linda. Daniel gave me your number," I said when Robert picked up. "I need you to follow someone. Full coverage, digital, physical, financial, everything." There was a pause on the other end. "Who's the subject?" I spoke very slowly. "My husband." He exhaled. I read out the apartment address. "A woman named Nina, about 26 years old, pregnant. I need everything." The second call was to Patricia, a forensic accountant. If Graham moved money, she would track every single cent. By 2 in the morning, I had a full team. By 3 in the morning, I had accessed every bank statement, every credit card transaction, every line of money leaving our joint accounts. By 4 in the morning, I found it. The investment Graham had bragged to me about 6 months ago. The apartment at 1247 Oak Street. Purchase price $70,000, pulled directly from the mortgage credit line of our marital home that I had personally signed to approve. He used my money to buy his mistress a nest. Thinking about it, I suddenly found it funny. I found the baby registry, Pottery Barn Kids, West Elm. Brands he used to complain were too expensive and unnecessary. What card did he use? Our joint card, the crib, technically half mine, the designer stroller, marital property. I laughed at 4:30 in the morning, out loud. Graham thought he was smart, thought he erased his tracks. But when you marry a woman who once wrote a research paper on how to trace hidden assets, you should really think one step ahead. The next morning, Robert called back with his first update. Nina works at a bar studio downtown. Makes around $30,000 a year. Their relationship has lasted 11 months. They met when Graham sold her friend an apartment. Patricia called right after that. She found nearly $20,000 more in spending. Baby furniture, maternity clothes, prenatal vitamins, all from the joint account. By noon, I had a complete financial picture. By 2 in the afternoon, I had finished drafting the divorce petition. By 4, I had filed it with the court, requesting an emergency hearing on the grounds of dissipation and misuse of marital assets. By 5 in the evening, when Graham texted that he'd be home late because his car had issues, I was sitting in my private attorney's office. Yes, I hired an attorney, because representing yourself is the stupidest thing a person can do in a situation like this. The plan was very simple. Serve him the divorce papers right at the gender reveal party. I found the invitation on his burner phone. Saturday afternoon. At Nina's apartment. Her friends and family would gather, laughing, chatting, waiting for the moment the balloon would burst with pink for a baby girl. Olivia looked at me with a mix of admiration and a slight shiver. "You're planning to have him served at the baby shower?" "Gender reveal," I corrected. "And yes, I'll be there too. Robert will be there too. I want everything recorded." "Linda, this is a bit cruel," Olivia said softly. I looked straight into her eyes. "He used my money to raise a child for his mistress. He bought her an apartment using the mortgage credit line on our marital home. Cruel is still too soft a word for what he deserves." Olivia smiled, the kind of smile lawyers have when they understand very clearly the line between morality and justice. "The emergency hearing has been scheduled for next Monday. Judge Morrison, you'll have 10 days to gather all evidence. Make this file airtight." I nodded. It already was. But I still wanted it perfect. That night, I went home and cooked. A real meal. The pot roast Graham liked the most. I set the table with the nicest dinnerware we had. Lit candles. Wore the dress he once said made me look the most like myself. When he came home at 9 p.m., still carrying her familiar perfume on him, he stopped in the kitchen doorway. "Why so fancy today?" "I just wanted to do something nice," I said, my voice sweet as sugar. Feels like it's been a long time since we had a real dinner together. He looked at me, uncomfortable, confused, guilty. Good. We ate in silence, disguised by meaningless small talk. He talked about clients that didn't exist. I talked about a day that wasn't real. We were both lying, but only one of us knew she was watching a play. "I love you," he said, reaching out to touch my hand. I looked at him and saw nothing. The man I married seemed to have disappeared. Or maybe he never existed. "I love you too," I replied, lying smoothly, because at 2 p.m. the next day, at his mistress's gender reveal party, he would receive his first present. And 10 days later, in front of a judge, he would receive the second one, the gift that would truly finish everything. Saturday morning, I woke up. Graham was still sleeping beside me, breathing evenly, completely unaware that his world would collapse within the next 4 hours. I looked at him for a while, the man I had shared a bed with for more than a decade. I tried to find a little sadness, a little regret, a little leftover trace of the old love. There was nothing, only a cold, calculated satisfaction. I got up, made coffee, and started getting ready. Not yoga pants and a messy bun like most Saturdays. No. Today required strategy. I chose a black dress, clean cut, elegant, not too flashy, but expensive enough to say everything. I wanted to look exactly like what I was. A woman still in control of her life, while his was about to shatter. Graham stumbled downstairs around 10 a.m., rubbing his eyes. "Morning?" He looked at me. "You look nice today. Going somewhere?" "Meeting Olivia," I said, and that wasn't entirely a lie. Olivia would be there, just not for lunch. "Oh, I've got a few showings this afternoon," he said, pouring coffee, kissing my cheek, and heading back upstairs to shower. "Showings, right?" The gender reveal party started at 2 p.m. I'd seen the invitation in his second phone. Blue and pink balloons, a cute question mark. The words, "It's a," left blank, waiting for the big reveal. The only surprise that day would be me, Olivia, Robert, and a process server walking in and tearing their little performance apart. At 1:30 p.m., I left the house. Graham was in his office, probably rehearsing another fake script for his busy afternoon. I didn't say goodbye. I drove to the Target parking lot across from the building they were living in. Robert was already there with a long lens camera. Olivia held the folder. I held the divorce papers, and more than 10 years of rage wrapped inside a perfect posture. "Ready?" Olivia asked. "Since the moment I found out he betrayed me," I answered. The process server, Joel, who had worked with me a few times before, drove up. He looked at me and laughed, shaking his head. "Linda, I have to say, this is the most dramatic service I've ever done. After today, you'll be telling this story for the rest of your life." We waited until 2:15. Arrived a little late. Let them get comfortable. Let the laughter get louder. Let Graham relax inside his fake life before I smashed it. Robert went in first, pretending to be a delivery guy. Mission, scout. Confirm Graham was inside. Count the people. 3 minutes later, my phone vibrated. Target confirmed. About 25 guests. Mostly women. He's playing the perfect dad. Hand on her belly, full performance. "Perfect," I said. Me, Olivia, and Joel crossed the street. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. This was the moment I had built for the last 48 hours. The elevator up to the 3rd floor. I could already hear music and laughter from Nina's apartment before turning into the hallway. The door was half open, the kind of party where people freely come and go. I walked in first. Everything was exactly as I imagined. Blue and pink ribbons everywhere, a dessert table with gender-neutral cupcakes, a balloon arch that probably cost more than Nina's monthly salary. About 25 guests scattered around the room, laughing, chatting. And right in the center of it all was Graham, his arm around Nina's shoulders, his hand resting on her visibly pregnant belly. He was laughing at something someone had said. He looked happy, truly happy. Happier than I'd seen him in years. Then he saw me. The smile vanished like someone flipped a switch. His hand dropped from her waist. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Nina followed his gaze, saw me standing in the doorway, and her face went from confused to panicked in less than 2 seconds. "Hi, husband," I said, walking into the room like I was an official guest. "Surprise!" The room went dead silent. 25 pairs of eyes stared at me like I had just ruined the party. Which, to be fair, I had. "Linda?" Graham finally managed. What are you doing here?" I turned to Joel. "Can you help me?" Joel stepped forward, professional, calm. "Graham, you've been served." He handed the papers to Graham. Graham's hand shook as he took them. He stared at the pages like they were written in a foreign language. "Linda, wait. Let me explain." "Oh, I'm sure you explain beautifully," I said. "You're in real estate. You're good at selling pretty stories. But there's something you should remember. I'm not a home buyer." I stepped a little closer. "I'm very good at tearing down lies." Nina made a small choking sound. "The joint money?" "Oh, honey, didn't he tell you?" I turned to her, my smile sharp enough to cut skin. "The cute apartment you're living in was bought using the mortgage credit line of our marital home. The furniture, our joint credit card, the crib you're decorating in the other room, same thing." I shrugged lightly. "Congratulations. You're living inside a love nest that I paid half for. Hope you like it, because the court is going to be very interested in taking all of that back." One of Nina's friends gasped. Another immediately pulled out a phone to record. "Very good. The more witnesses, the better." Graham's face went white. "Linda, please, can we talk in private?" "Private?" I laughed. "Like how you privately cheated on me all this time? Like how you privately got your mistress pregnant? Like how you privately drained our marital assets to play house with another woman?" I shook my head. "No, Graham. We've been way past private for a long time." Olivia stepped forward, very much in lawyer mode. "Mr. Harper, I'm Olivia Foster, attorney representing Mrs. Linda," she said, her voice clear, cold, and precise like a scalpel. "You will see in the filings that an emergency hearing has been scheduled for Monday morning. The court has approved a temporary order freezing all joint accounts, pending review of dissipation of marital assets. In addition, there is a request for exclusive use of the marital home. I strongly advise you to hire a lawyer immediately." Graham looked like all the blood had been drained from him. "Very good." Nina started crying. "You told me you were already divorced. You said it was all done." That almost made me laugh. "You told her we were divorced?" I turned back to Graham. "Is that the story you chose to tell? So what was I then? The extremely devoted ex-wife still living with you, sleeping in the same bed, and conveniently funding your new relationship?" "I was going to tell you," Graham stammered. "I was going to tell both of you." "After the baby was born?" I asked. I looked straight at him. "Graham, you should check your bank accounts." I tilted my head, smiling. "Oh wait, you can't. They're all frozen. I guess now you have to ask your mistress for money." Robert was filming everything from the hallway. "Very good." I turned to leave, then stopped. "Oh, Nina." I looked at her. "Congratulations on the baby. The ultrasound pictures are really cute." I shrugged lightly. "But remember to give the money back, because all of those payments came from our joint account." I walked out of the apartment with my head held high. Olivia walked beside me. Behind us was a room sunk into deadly silence, and a gender reveal party that had been buried alive. My phone vibrated before we even reached the parking lot. Graham calling. I declined. He called again. Declined again. Then a text came. "Linda, please, let me explain. It's not what you think. I love you." I blocked his number. Robert stood next to the car, smiling wide. "Got everything on camera. Beautiful for court. Send it to Olivia tonight," I said, "and bill him for the cost, not me. Add it to the list of marital expenses." I drove back to my house, the house that would legally be entirely mine by the end of the next week, and finally, I allowed myself to feel. Not sadness, not pain, Just a clean, cold, deserved satisfaction. Graham had spent 11 months believing he was smart enough to live two lives, believing I was too busy, too trusting, too blind to notice. Monday morning came like the final episode of a top-tier series, except I was the main character, the scriptwriter, and the executive producer. I woke up at 5 a.m., went for a run, showered, and put on my best courtroom suit, a navy Armani that made me look like I could bankrupt someone with a glance. Which, coincidentally, was exactly the plan. That weekend, Graham kept calling, emailing, and showing up at the front door. The front door he couldn't enter because of the no-contact order. I knew because Olivia forwarded me the increasingly panicked emails from the lawyer he rushed to hire. My favorite one was the letter accusing me of being mentally unstable and disrupting a private family gathering. A private family gathering? Is that what they call a fake baby shower now? The emergency hearing was set for 9 a.m. I arrived at court at 8:30, hugging a thick folder of evidence. Olivia was already there, reviewing notes. Robert had delivered a USB drive containing all videos, receipts, and transactions. We had bank statements, credit card statements, messages from the second phone, and a detailed spreadsheet of every single cent he had spent on Nina over 11 months. Total damages: $94,632 in marital assets. Half of that was my sweat and work. Graham arrived at 8:50 with his lawyer, Richard. Graham looked terrible: patchy beard, wrinkled suit, bloodshot eyes. Clearly his weekend had been difficult. Very good. We walked into the courtroom, Judge Morrison presiding, a fair, direct judge who was extremely allergic to cheating husbands playing dirty financial games. Mrs. Harper, she nodded at me. Mr. Harper, I have read the emergency motion. I have read the response. Let's begin. Olivia stood. Your Honor, this is a clear case of dissipation of marital assets. Mr. Harper engaged in an extramarital affair for 11 months, and during that time systematically redirected family funds to support his mistress and the expected child. She displayed the first piece of evidence: the apartment purchased through the mortgage credit line both of us had signed. Mr. Harper told my client this was an investment property, Olivia continued. In reality, it was purchased as housing for his mistress, Ms. Nina Porter. Richard stood up. Your Honor, my client made an investment decision. An investment decision? Judge Morrison raised an eyebrow. Counsel, did your client inform his wife that this investment property was being used by the woman he was having an affair with? Richard sat back down. No, Your Honor. Continue, Ms. Foster. Exhibit 2? Credit card statements. Olivia pointed at every line. Pottery Barn Kids, Williams-Sonoma, Tiffany and Company. The payment over $3,000 still made my blood boil. Prenatal visits, maternity photo shoot, baby furniture, breast pumps. He spent $94,632 in marital assets to support an affair and the resulting pregnancy. All of that money came from our joint accounts. Judge Morrison looked at Graham like he was dirt stuck to her shoe. Mr. Harper, did you inform your wife about any of these expenses? Graham stood, hands trembling. Your Honor, I made mistakes. That wasn't my question. Did you inform her? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you were having an affair? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? Your Honor. Did you use marital funds your wife also earned, to support that relationship? Graham's jaw tightened. Yes, Your Honor. The judge wrote something down. Ms. Foster, what are you asking? Olivia answered, immediate reimbursement of dissipated funds exclusive use of the marital home, ownership of the jointly owned vehicle, and an order to sell the apartment purchased for the mistress, with proceeds returned to the marital estate. Richard weakly objected. Your Honor, Miss Porter is 7 months pregnant and currently residing there. Mr. Harper should have considered that before using his wife's money to house his mistress, the judge replied coldly. The court orders as follows. Mr. Harper has 72 hours to vacate the marital home. Mrs. Harper is granted exclusive use of the home pending final divorce. The apartment is to be immediately listed for sale. The proceeds will be held in escrow. All joint accounts remain frozen, except for a $2,000 monthly allowance to Mrs. Harper. Mr. Harper may petition for access to any separate accounts if he has any. Graham's face turned gray. He didn't have separate accounts. Everything was joint. Furthermore, the judge continued, Mr. Harper is ordered to repay $94,632 to the marital estate within 90 days. If he is unable to pay, the court will attach the debt to his future income. Richard tried. Your Honor, my client has ongoing financial obligations. He should have thought about that before deciding to support a second family. Court is adjourned. We walked out of the courtroom. I felt like I was floating. Behind me, I heard Richard trying to explain to Graham that yes, this was really happening, and no, there wasn't much they could do to change it. Graham ran after me in the hallway. Linda, please, can we talk for a bit? I stopped, turned around, looked straight at him. Talk about what, Graham? About how you lied to me? About how you took our joint money to support another woman? About how you bought her a $3,200 Tiffany ring while I'm still wearing the $1,800 ring from 10 years ago? He mumbled, I didn't mean to hurt you. I laughed. You only meant to lie, cheat, steal, and get someone else pregnant while you were still my husband. Hurting me was just an unwanted side effect, right? I still love you, he said. You love me? I actually laughed out loud. Graham, you don't even know what love means. You love yourself. You love the feeling of having options. You love having a stable wife who takes care of everything at home while you go play happy family with the younger version on the other side of town. And me? You haven't loved me in years. You just didn't want to give up the cozy life I helped you build. His eyes went red. What am I supposed to do now? I don't know, Graham. Keep working. Move in with your mistress in some rental apartment. Do whatever you want. That is no longer my problem. I turned and walked away. The next 72 hours were wonderful. Tuesday afternoon, Graham showed up with a rented U-Haul because he couldn't afford a moving service. I had already had his things moved into the living room. I stood in the kitchen, pouring wine, leaning on the counter, looking out the window. He hauled out box after box, bag after bag of clothes, his beloved golf clubs, the big flat-screen TV he used to cradle like an egg. I kept everything that actually mattered. The house, the furniture, the art on the walls, the kitchenware, the nicest dishes, and most importantly, the feeling that this was my home. On Wednesday, I changed the locks, installed a new security system. Symbolically and practically, Graham was thrown out of my life. On Thursday, Robert called. You're going to love this. Graham just tried to return the Tiffany ring. They refused. Engagement pieces are non-refundable. He lost the full $3,000. I laughed until I cried. On Friday, Olivia called with an update. The apartment was officially on the market. Nina was packing up, getting ready to move back in with her parents. And Graham's mother had called his lawyer, asking if she was obligated to put money in to help her son. Her voice did not sound happy. By the following Monday, exactly 1 week after the hearing, I had everything in my hands. The house, the car I was driving, our bank accounts unfrozen, and, above all, my self-respect. And Graham? What did he have? A shabby studio in a rough neighborhood, a bus pass, and the obligation to support 2 families. The legal wife about to become the ex-wife, and the baby with his mistress. I drove past his new place once, just to Check. A dated building, a stuck elevator, coin-operated laundry on the ground floor, broken doorbells. The BMW, soon to be mine, parked there awkwardly, looking completely out of place. 6 weeks later, everything was official. The divorce decree was signed. I got the house, 5 years of spousal support, the BMW. Nina had a baby boy a few months later. I know because the birth announcement showed up on Facebook. A few mutual friends couldn't resist the drama and shared it. Baby boy, 7 pounds 3 ounces. The most interesting part, not a single word mentioned Graham. No baby's father, no Harper family. Total silence. The last I heard, Graham was grinding away, selling houses day and night to scrape together enough to cover court-ordered payments, rent, and diapers. And me? I refinanced the house and put it solely in my name. I sold the BMW, Graham's symbol, because every time I saw it, I smelled Nina's perfume. I bought myself a brand new Tesla. Then I used the money from our account, or rather, now my account, to reward myself with a 2-week trip to Italy. Then Greece, then France. Eating what I wanted, buying what I wanted. Not asking permission, not explaining to anyone why I was spending so much again. I saw Graham exactly once after the divorce, at Whole Foods. Of course, he was standing in line with a cart full of the cheapest formula and store-brand items. I was behind him, my cart full of organic vegetables, cheese, expensive wine, and a pile of things I absolutely didn't need but could easily buy. He looked up, saw me. I smiled. He turned away. I didn't say anything. No need. Watching him dig through his pockets counting loose change to pay for formula while I paid a nearly $100 bill in cash said everything. 1 year after the divorce, my life was completely different. Right now, I'm sitting in my home office. Sorry, the office in my house. The house that's in my name alone after refinancing. Morning sunlight is streaming through the windows I hired someone to clean just last week. People often ask if I resent him, if I hate Graham, if I ever dream about those 11 months of being lied to and nearly $100,000 burned. The answer is no, not anymore. He's not important enough for me to hate that long. When someone is just a name that pops up here and there in a few funny stories your friends tell, it's hard to keep spending energy on them. But I did hate him once. I was once so angry I couldn't breathe. Now, I've started dating again. At first it was casual. Then it got more serious. Turns out there are still decent men out there. Men who don't lie, don't cheat, and see successful women as attractive instead of threatening. Right now, I'm seeing someone, he's a lawyer, who makes me laugh a lot, and, most importantly, doesn't have a secret family somewhere. The standard isn't high, but he passes it easily. And Graham? What I know comes from the neighborhood radio I pretend not to listen to but really do. He and Nina lasted about 8 months after the baby was born. Then everything collapsed in the most predictable way. No money, no patience, drama piling on top of drama. Apparently, playing family with the person you cheated with stops being fun when the account is empty. The bills stack up, and both of you realize that if we were willing to betray other people for each other, betraying each other isn't that hard either. I don't gloat. I just note it, like an extra data point in a report that was closed a long time ago. After everything, when it all finally settled, I realized that betrayal really is a gift, wrapped in the ugliest paper in the world. On the outside, there is pain, humiliation, nights staring at the ceiling, asking the same old question over and over. Why me? But inside, if you're calm enough to slowly peel away all that torn, filthy wrapping, there is something very strange, very light, and very rare: freedom. For many years, I called my marriage stable, safe, comfortable. Looking back now, I understand that comfort was like a velvet-covered cage. It didn't hurt, it didn't bleed, but every day it tightened a little more. I was a well-behaved bird who crawled inside, locked the door myself, and convinced myself that this is where I belong. And that affair, That Christmas night at my mother-in-law's house, that moment I stood behind the kitchen door, hearing my husband talk about his new family, was the rough hand that ripped the cage open, shoved me out of my safe zone, and forced me into a life I never even dared to imagine could be this good. I don't feel grateful to Graham. I will never be grateful to a man who used my money to build a nest for his mistress. But I am grateful for the outcome. I'm grateful for the courtroom. Grateful for that Christmas night sitting alone at the kitchen table, surrounded by files, paperwork, emails, bank statements, and realizing that, for the first time in a very long time, I was fighting for myself, not for a marriage that was already dead. It turns out, the best revenge isn't watching the other person collapse, but living so well that they are forced to look, forced to know, forced to understand what they lost. There are quiet nights when I think back to that hallway in my mother-in-law's house. If that day I had walked into the kitchen, thrown all the gifts on the floor, screamed, cried, cursed, smashed a few plates, people would probably say, "That's normal, anyone would do that." But I didn't react. I just stood still, watched, recorded every word, memorized every detail, stepped back, walked to the car, drove home. That moment, which so many people would call weakness, was, to me, the line between victim and winner. I didn't let Graham, his mother, or anyone in that kitchen that night decide my story. I rewrote it myself, with strategy, with evidence, with the law. He underestimated me. Like so many men still underestimate women, thinking women only cry loudly, act impulsively, lack logic, can't plan. And he paid for it. People ask me, "If you suspect your husband is cheating, what should you do?" I don't say forgive, and I don't say make a big scene to feel better. The only thing I say is trust your instinct, then calmly go look for the truth. Save evidence, messages, emails, calendars, statements, photos, everything. And find a lawyer before you confront. Don't walk into a battlefield with empty hands, carrying only a broken heart. Carry a file. And if anyone listening to this is on the other side, sending messages you don't want your spouse to see, living a second life in hotels, in secret apartments, in business trips that last too long, then my advice is very simple. Divorce first. Leave properly, cleanly, honestly, because lying to an ordinary person is already bad. Lying to a divorce lawyer is you signing your own sentence. If you're still listening right now, maybe you're standing somewhere like I once stood, in a hallway of a house, on the edge of a relationship, arms holding something very heavy, a bag of gifts, a child, a pile of bills, or just your own pride, and you just heard a sentence that cracked your whole inner world open. I can't promise it will hurt less tomorrow, but I can tell you this. Sometimes what you think is the end is just the way life gently, or cruelly, turns the key and opens a door you've been sitting behind for far too long.